Hello everyone, I'm Indy and I love being in Berlin. It's such an amazingly creative and inspirational city. In fact, the last time I was actually here was 2 years ago when I was one of you. I was agency side, that's right. I used to work at TBWA and I was visiting my colleagues in TBWA Berlin. Are you there? Anyone? They'll be along later, they said, for the free wine. So it's quite interesting for me. So I've had Google come and talk to me about innovation. So it's brilliant being on this side now, being able to have full access to all of Google's toys. So I'll just explain to you, for those of you who don't know what Creative Lab is, we're this small team within Google whose job it is just to take a step back and work out how can we rethink communications and product. And Google is our only client with this kind of small innovation unit spread out across these locations. And we have pretty big ambitions. And so this is what we try and do. We try and invent the future. And very importantly, how do you remind the world what it is they love about Google? How do we do that? How do we do that using the technology that Google has? And our philosophy is very, very simple. Know the user, know the magic, and connect the two. The magic, of course, being the magic of technology and what it allows you to do, but connecting the two is fundamental. What is it that the user is into? How can we wrap the technology into a broader social cause, an interest, a hobby, a ritual, something which the user is interested in, and by playing around with it, they then discover the technology. Let's not lead with the technology, and hopefully this philosophy will show as we take you through some of the work that we've done. And we're this kind of very strange group of vagabonds and idealists. We're filmmakers, we're coders, we're developers, we're artists, we're strategists, we're producers. And we all come together trying to make these really audacious and ambitious projects. And one thing which we can do is we need to work collaboratively with partners because we are small, in order to realize our ambitions, we need to work very, very closely with our partners. A lot of the projects I'll show you couldn't have been done with our partners who we collaborate with. We sit with them, they sit with us, we share our ideas, and the collaboration is such, by the end of the project, we almost forget who had the original idea in the first place. And our culture is very much one of making. We spend most of our time always making something, whether it's making a poster to articulate very simply what the core of the idea we're trying to create is, whether it's a video prototype trying to bring to life what we're trying to create. How do we create mock-ups which bring to life what we're trying to do? How do we then create a prototype which we can just put into market, which shows how the product works at a very, very minimum level, and then let it and iterate upon that to make the best possible thing. So we're always spending our time making. What I'm going to do now is take you through some of our work, and each of the bits of work will be preceded by a very important business question, because contrary to public opinion, we aren't a bunch of hippies who sit around playing guitar all day. We're actually trying to answer some very, very important Google business objectives. So this is the first one. How do you use technology to create a more playful brand? I don't know if you guys have read, there's this great book that's come out called Employee 59, which was done by the 59th employee of Google. And he was a marketing and advertising person, and he was having a meeting with Sergey Brin, one of the founders. And Sergey Brin said to him, you know what I'm thinking of doing? I'm thinking of just changing the logo every day. And of course, Employee 59, he came from marketing and advertising background. And he said, that's absolute commercial suicide. You never do that. The logo is sacred. It's fundamental. You never change the logo. Sergey listened and thought, I'm going to change the logo every day. So the Google Doodle was born. And so what we want to do was inject playfulness back into the Google Doodle again. And so we created the first interactive and recordable Google Doodle. Some of you might know this. This is the Les Paul Google Doodle that we created. And here's a nice little video we put together to talk about it. So subsequent to that, I don't know if you remember that, but subsequent to that, we've created the Moog Doodle, and we've got a few more goodies up our sleeve as well, so watch this space before the end of the year. How do you showcase the features and technology of the Chrome browser without talking about any of them? This was a really, really interesting problem. We had this great browser and it had all these amazing things like HTML5, WebGL, but you can guarantee the moment you start talking about that, people will start yawning and switch off. So we had to try and find a way of making this really, really interesting to people. And the way that we did that was to reinvent the music video. Together with a band called the Arcade Fire, we created an interactive music video. A music video, of course, which was experienced best on Google Chrome. But by taking part in this music video, you could understand the different technologies that were powering the Chrome browser, hence understand for yourself while it was better. I don't know if you guys saw this, but I saw this before I joined Google, and it's the first time that technology has made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. There's such an amazing emotional connection. Essentially, what you do is you type your postcode into this browser, and it recreates a video of you running down the street you grew up in as a kid. So I'll let the video talk. It's still up. If you haven't played with it, thewildernessdowntown.com. We've done a few of these. We've done one for DJ Danger Mouse, for Johnny Cash, so we've found ways of talking about Google technology in very interesting ways. This is a really, really important problem we struggle with every day. How do you change the perception of YouTube as a place where you just watch cats on skateboards? That's what everyone thinks, right? Everyone thinks that's what you do, to watch silly little videos, and this is actually felt in some schools. And we thought, because schools believe that YouTube is such a waste of time, how can we tap into a higher cause and belief and reposition what YouTube actually is? We did this by reinventing it as a platform to make science more appealing to kids. So we created YouTube Spacelab, an opportunity for you to send your science experiment into space. We held a competition, Stephen Hawking judged it, and it's a really nice video here which talks about how we did this. So we will be sending the winning experiment into space next month, and you'll be able to view it from YouTube. The actual story of the winner was pretty inspirational. He was actually a young Egyptian kid, and by day he was in his science lab doing science experiments. In the evenings he was protesting in Tahrir Square against the government. And his winning experiment was, how does a spider make a web in space? So we'll be sending that into space to see how a spider does that. How do you demonstrate the power of the Chrome browser for cloud-based collaboration? Even the wording sounds really, really boring and square. So how do we try and do this? We do this by allowing people to collaborate together to create art. This is something which we just launched last month called This Exquisite Forest in partnership with the Tate Modern. It's using the Chrome browser. You can create a short animation which builds upon the contribution of people who have already submitted something. So this is something which allows people from wherever they are to contribute, whether you're at home on your browser or whether you're like these guys in the actual museum space itself. Create something and watch this whole exhibit grow around you.
In early 20th century Paris, a group of writers and artists called the Surrealists invented the Exquisite corpse, a creative exercise in which people compose a sentence, one word at a time, without seeing what had already been written. Now, imagine if you could add alternative words at any point along the line. And then imagine if this spirit of shared creativity was transferred to the web. If we use this as our inspiration, and instead allow people to create short animations, linked together and exploring a specific theme, these animations could take any number of paths, from one beginning to many possible endings. Right here in your web browser, you may contribute to anyone's creation and steer it in any direction you choose. Or start the story of your own by creating the seed animation for a new tree. Our hope is that through the collective creativity of the web, an ever-expanding forest of narrative paths will grow.
And when the talks are over and we open up the demo booth, you can actually play with this exquisite forest yourself as well. But you can see we packaged it as artistic collaboration experiments to talk about cloud-based collaboration through a browser. Sounds a lot better that way. How do we get people to try out a Google Plus Hangout? I don't know how many of you have tried a Google Plus Hangout yet, but they are absolutely amazing. This idea of 10-person real-time video chat, it's such an amazing feature, but we wanted people to really get their hands on it. So what could we do with this product feature? Well, we decided to turn it into a medium of casual tuition. We invented Maker Camp, which is on at the moment. It's almost like a virtual summer camp where kids can learn how to make things for themselves, simple DIY projects in tuition, something as simple as creating your own animated GIF, for example, all the way to more complex electronics and hacking. So we've created a whole set of these different tuitions in this virtual summer camp. And we've even got field trip Fridays, where every Friday you can go on a virtual field trip, which is broadcast over YouTube and over Hangout. So last Friday we went to CERN in Geneva, where the guys there showed us around. The next one is actually tomorrow if you want to get on it, but we've already been to Ford, to National Geographic, to NASA for these virtual field trips.
Rise and shine, campers. It's time for Maker Camp. 30 days, 30 hands-on projects, 6 awesome field trips. Each day you'll make something cool with guest counselors and staffers from Make Magazine. Just go to the Make page on Google+, click the follow button, and attend Maker Camp right from home. Making, building, tinkering, and experimenting happens all summer long. So sign up for Maker Camp on Google+ today. See you there, campers. And
so we did that in partnership with Make Magazine. the last thing I'm going to talk about here is how can we get people to understand for themselves the power of Chrome. When you talk about Chrome now, it's been out for a while, it's doing relatively well in some areas, but there are people who are aware of Chrome, but you know what, just can't be bothered to download Chrome onto their desktop. So how can we try and get them to have more reasons and understand the power of Chrome for themselves? Well, there's a very interesting discussion going on. I don't know what it's like in Germany, but certainly in the UK, there's a big dissatisfaction with the way that computers are taught in schools. If you learn information technology now in schools, it's usually how you use a word processing package or how you use a spreadsheet. The way that computers are taught in schools has been lost. So we thought, why don't we use this as an opportunity to educate the world on how the web works, and by doing so and bring to life some of these unseen, invisible forces in the web, we can position Chrome as being quite good at doing them. So we created WebLab, and we launched it last month in the Science Museum, but it's also online as well. And again, you're going to have a chance to play with this. But we created a set of physical and digital experiments where people could find out what were the different things powering the web. So I've got a few pictures here. The thing on the far left is the teleporter. You put your head on, you put your head into this, and then you get transported into a fish tank in Johannesburg, or closer to home, you can put your head into Miniature World in Hamburg and see what it's like there as these planes take off and land. You've got Universal Orchestra in the center where you can play music on these space-age looking instruments with anyone in the Science Museum in London or someone online as well, and Sandbox here, Sketchbots, sorry, who can draw your photos in sand and create lifelike portraits. So that was a lot of hard work. We launched that last month, and we launched it in beta. When Google launches a product, they always launch it in beta so they can understand how people can make the user experience a lot better. Our philosophy on this was no different. Let's launch the Science Museum, this real-world exhibit, in beta and take people's feedback. So by the end of the summer, we'll have come out of beta. And again, this is at the Science Museum, but it's also online. And when the demo booths are open, you too can have a chance to have your portrait drawn in sand live at the Science Museum. And that's all I was really going to talk about today. So hopefully you can see how we at Creative Lab try and approach creativity to answer various business objectives. Thank you.